Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Samantha Becotte. I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, and I am joining you here from Treaty 6 territory in the traditional lands of the Métis. Last week, we announced on Friday for Monday and Tuesday of this week, we would be having rotating withdrawals of noon hour supervision. And today we announced further action for the remainder of the week. On Wednesday, we will be holding a one-day province-wide strike. And Thursday and Friday, we would have a province-wide removal of extracurricular services. I want to be very clear that no teacher, including me, wants to be taking any of these actions. We want to be in our classrooms and in our schools supporting students in their education and in the additional opportunities offered within the school community. But students and teachers need to be better supported in all schools across the province. Despite the early announcement of the budget, we have little hope that the increase of funding will remain next year. If government's commitment to continue this funding was genuine, they would have no issue in including a statement in the collective agreement with teachers to provide accountability on that funding, as well as provide accountability that school boards would direct that funding to the classroom. The Teachers Bargaining Committee has offered several solutions to resolve this dispute over classroom complexity, including last week's offer of binding arbitration for that one item. This is a fair, unbiased process that would provide a decision on classroom complexity and allow bargaining on the other items to resume. And in good faith, all sanction action would cancel or be suspended. Unfortunately, all we hear back is no. Government and SSBA leadership continue to refuse to make meaningful commitments with teachers that would ensure their working conditions, which are our students' learning conditions, improve over the long term. If the government agreed to binding arbitration for classroom complexity or provided their bargaining team with the mandate that included classroom complexity, we could return to the table to negotiate an agreement. And like I said, all sanctions would be canceled or suspended. I encourage everyone who is concerned to reach out to their local MLA, the Minister of Education and the Premier, as well as local school board trustees and the SSBA leadership, and urge them to work with teachers to find a solution. So thank you for joining us here this morning. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Brody.
Morning. Thanks for doing
Morning.
this. So this job action on Thursday and Friday will overlap with Hoopla and the Optimist Band Festival. Do you know if this job action kind of definitively cancels these events?
That would be up to the organizing committee of those events, if they are able to still continue beyond that. From what I have heard, it would be a challenge. I know for the Regina Optimist Club Music Festival, it does start today and goes today and tomorrow, but with the removal of or the province-wide strike that's occurring on Wednesday, it won't occur Wednesday and Thursday. As well, there are several other events that are happening, not just this week, but in the weeks to come. And we want to prevent any of those from being impacted, but we need government to come to the table and be willing to engage in a meaningful process. Like we said, we're hopeful that we hear back anytime from the GTBC to say that they're willing to either go to binding arbitration or willing to have meaningful conversations to find solutions around classroom complexity, as well as the other proposals we've brought forward. Angela?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Some people are saying that the impasse or the decision is going to come down to public opinion or public support. With extracurriculars being impacted, are you confident that the public will still stand by teachers?
Well, we know that as students are impacted with any of the actions that we take, and as their families are impacted by the actions that we take, there is a risk of losing that public support. But for the most part, from what I have seen, although our announcements this week have had a bit of a bigger impact on on individuals, I still see so many messages from the public saying that we need to have these issues addressed in the long term. We cannot continue with empty promises. We cannot continue with underfunding in education because so many students are going without the supports that they need day in and day out of their classrooms. And we're not just talking about students who require additional support. We're talking about every student in the classroom is not getting the education that they deserve because teachers can't fill the gaps any longer. So whether it is because there are large class sizes and a teacher can't get to every individual student, or there are split grade classes and a teacher is splitting their time between two different curricula, or it is just that the needs of the class are magnified. This could also mean that there are students who are gifted and should be challenged, but again, a teacher is stretched too far that they aren't able to provide the high quality education that each of those children deserve. So I think parents understand that in the long term, that the things that we're looking for are for the benefit of every kid. And we're hopeful and we wish that we didn't have to get to this point. We had negotiations from May to October. These things could have been addressed during those negotiations, and government refused to engage in that process in good faith. Same thing with conciliation. 5 days in December, we could have come to an agreement, or at least closer to an agreement during that process. Government at every opportunity refuses to engage in the process in a meaningful way, and I think the public sees that as well.
Great. And with the provincial budget coming out on the 20th with the province-wide strike, should we expect teachers to be at the legislature on Wednesday?
Yes, so teachers who are in close vicinity to Regina, we are asking them to come to the legislature for the day on March 20th. And then also we have opened the invitation, given that it is a province-wide strike, to others who want to make the journey down to Regina to come and join us as well. So you should definitely expect there to be thousands. I think we said in our news release 4,000 teachers down in the area, but I expect it to be a large gathering, as well as seeing students and parents down there as well. We all understand that our kids aren't getting the support that they need, and that is a direct result from government decisions over the last decade. We need to start finding solutions, and those solutions are possible. They are within grasp. We just need the political will to make those decisions and make our kids a priority.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Alexander?
Thanks for taking my question. First up, I guess, what is the message you're hoping to send to the province, to the government, when you show up at the legislature on Wednesday with 4,000 teachers like you said could possibly show up?
Well, the message would be that they need to take this process seriously, that these are significant priorities of teachers that have been unaddressed through the last, or have not been addressed through the last 2 rounds of collective bargaining. We agreed to going to a committee in the last round in good faith, hoping that the recommendations coming from that committee would be meaningful and would provide change. Unfortunately, that wasn't the experience that we had. And so too often we are putting our hopes in these empty promises that don't result in any meaningful positive change. And we need to know that the conditions in our classrooms are going to improve over a longer period of time. I've said it before that these issues didn't come out of 1 year of decisions. They are over the last decade of underfunding in schools, and it is going to take a number of years to correct those decisions and improve the conditions in our classrooms. We don't expect it to be a quick solution, but we need to start making progress forward in meaningful long-term commitments.
A quick follow-up. I'm seeing a lot of response to the news that there is going to be a strike. There's going to be withdrawal of extracurricular activities that could affect these big tournaments, these big festivals. What do you say to parents or students who feel like they're being used as a bargaining chip in a labor dispute between the teachers and the province?
Well, I would say that I'm truly sorry to them that we have come to this point. They should have a government who values public education, that understands that these students are the best investment that the government can make for the future of our province. Our kids are our future. They are the best resource, and the people are the best resource we have here in Saskatchewan. And unfortunately, government's actions don't align with those principles, and kids deserve better. We should have been able to get to a resolution before it came to this point. Government should have been willing to go to binding arbitration so that we could avoid any further action. Teachers are trying to find any solution possible that provides that long-term, meaningful commitment to improvements over the next few years. But we need government willing to engage in that process with us. So, like I said, no teacher is happy about these actions, but we cannot continue down this path of underfunding. We cannot continue to have years and years of cuts because there really is nothing left to cut. Stephen?
So the last week, former Education Minister Dustin Duncan said that the STF has been continually moving the goalposts throughout the entire labor dispute. What's your reactions to that?
Well, again, to me, all of the government messages have been misleading about what the process looks like. We open with a set of proposals, and if we're moving the goalposts, we're moving them closer to find that solution. Their characterization that teachers are moving the goalposts to move things further and further couldn't be less true. We want to find a solution that works for everyone involved, but we need to have a solution that puts the interests of kids at the forefront and ensures that they are getting the supports that they need. Government's goalposts have not moved. We continue to hear no when we're talking about classroom complexity, but there are ways that this can be solved. There are ways that we can make it work within our Saskatchewan context, recognizing the diversity of our province. We just need our government to recognize that ability and to participate in finding solutions to classroom complexity.
Just a real quick follow-up question. Up 10 years ago, the provincial budget, 26% of it was dedicated to education. Just last year, it was down to 21%, probably going to be a similar amount or lower this year. Do you think that within those sort of frameworks, they'll be able to accommodate the multi-year funding agreement that they've signed with the SSBA?
Well, I'm not sure whether they'd be able to or not. From what I have seen, they have the funds. We have never seen an argument, at least over the course of this round of bargaining, where the government has claimed that they don't have the funds to support it. I know that they have overspent from what their budget was in the last year, but they're not overspending and putting those funds back into education. And those numbers about the 26% and the 21%, that also includes capital costs. And when we do hear from the government about investment in education, they're often talking about investing in capital costs. And we definitely need to invest there, but we even have more cuts and erosion to the operating spending, which is the spending that goes towards supports for students in the classroom. The government has the ability to fund this. They just don't make it a priority, and those numbers show that directly. The erosion to public education, whether it is moving it to funding for privatized schools or it is moving it to other sectors, our schools are struggling and our students are struggling because of the decisions of this government. Laura? Oh, so Laura, I see you've got a couple questions in the chat. So the first one with the big extracurricular events coming up and the possibility of them not going ahead. Are you concerned about losing some support from parents and students? So absolutely, I think that anytime we take action, whether it is a strike and students are missing out on instruction, or it is withdrawal of noon hour supervision and a family's day is impacted, or it is a withdrawal of extracurricular and kids are losing out on those opportunities within their school community. There is a concern about public perception of these actions, but our hope is that the public recognizes the fight that teachers are having to get this government to make long-term commitments to public education. It shouldn't be this hard to get them to recognize that there are solutions. There are solutions that are within our grasp. There are solutions that can be manageable for everyone here within Saskatchewan, but they need to start recognizing that our kids are the priority and they aren't getting the support that they need in their education. And that's going to have a lasting impact on their opportunities, not just here within this province, but competitively across Canada as they enter the workforce or they are seeking spots in post-secondary education. So we want to make sure that our students are set up for success, and that means investing in supports for their education. And then I see there's another question as well. Has there been any attempt or talk about writing in the types of contingencies into the MOU that could prompt a withdrawal of future funding from the province, and what would not? Would that kind of MOU work for the STF? So we have offered that as a potential solution. I know we were offered an MOU directly from the government. It did not include SSBA within that offer. We said we needed to know that there was no exit clause. So we talked about what kind of amendments would need to be made, and then said that we look forward to discussing that with the GTBC. Unfortunately, there was a refusal to include that even as an MOU alongside the collective bargaining agreement. And then similarly with the multi-year funding agreement that was signed with Saskatchewan School Boards Association leadership, we said that even something like this, ensuring that the funds are there, so removing the clause about approbation, ensuring that there is accountability on school boards so that we know that those funds get directed to our classrooms and not an additional superintendent, or not capital costs in building offices, because we have seen those things occur. We want to ensure that the funds are restricted, which means that they are getting directed to a specific purpose, which is student supports. That's what we're looking for. We have offered that to the government to say, take that multi-year funding agreement, make a couple of amendments to it, and put it into the collective agreement or alongside the collective agreement with teachers. There's no refusal, or there was a complete refusal to do that as well. So we are trying to find solutions that should work for the government, but there is no willingness on their part, or there hasn't been a willingness on their part to work with teachers in finding those solutions. Musa?
Thank you for taking my question. It's something that's been touched on a number of times, but I do want to kind of come back to it. You know, the obvious answer when you ask people is what can they do to support teachers is reach out to their MLAs. And if you check social media, there's a lot of chatter about here are your local MLAs, here's how you can reach out to them. But it seems a bit unfair that parents and students are kind of caught in the crossfire here, as was brought up previously. How much of the responsibility do you think falls on them to help solve the problem here?
Well, like I said, we shouldn't be at this point. We need the government to be willing to engage in the process in good faith, and that has not occurred throughout the entire process of bargaining. If they were, we would have a solution already. The Teachers Bargaining Committee is ready to find a solution that works for all parties that are part of the collective agreement, so teachers, government, and school boards. But we need a willing partner in that negotiation. And sitting at a table for 15 days over the course of the last 10 months hearing no over and over and over again is not real negotiations. We should have been able to find an agreement that works for everyone. But like I said, government is just not willing to do that. So we have shown that this is serious. We had a sanctions vote in October that should have been assigned to government that this is a significant issue, that teachers were ready to do whatever it took to get it addressed. We had more strike days now than we have had in our history of any other round of collective bargaining. It shouldn't have got to this point. But we are very grateful for the support that has been shown by members of the public, whether it is students and their families, their parents, their aunts and uncles, grandparents, for continuing to call on this government to find a way forward. The most recent numbers that I've seen is 250,000 emails and phone calls through our Tell Them Tuesday platform, calling on this government to work with teachers and find a solution. So it shouldn't be this difficult, and it is very, very disappointing that government is making it as hard as it is to commit to making our kids a priority.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander?
Yeah, just a few more questions. I'm seeing some chatter online about a protest planned outside of the STF office for this lunchtime, in response to the news that there's going to be a strike and there's going to be more withdrawal of extracurricular activities. Can I get you to respond to, a protest being held outside of your office today?
So I recognize that the actions that we are taking are impacting students and their families, and I can understand their disappointment in this. As I said, I truly hope that they see that we are trying to find solutions to this process. We are trying to find long-term, meaningful commitments that will improve their experiences in schools. It is unfortunate that high school students have gone a decade where they have only ever experienced a decline in the supports that they receive in their schools. And we want to ensure that the next generation of kids that is coming into our schools doesn't have that same experience. We want to know that year after year, we were looking at where can we invest more supports? How can we get our students the support that they need? How can we ensure that students are able to thrive in their pre-K to 12 education? We shouldn't ever be having to fight about what is best for our students and for the children of this province. We want to ensure that they're getting the high quality education that every kid in this province deserves.
Can you clarify to me, what would the government need to do right now to for you to cancel the strike that is planned and for the extracurricular activities to be withdrawn? What would they need to do right now for those to be canceled?
Well, we've provided several solutions to the dispute. They could agree to binding arbitration. And as I said, this is a fair, unbiased process where a third-party arbitrator makes a decision on that one item of classroom complexity. This poses a risk to teachers as well. Teachers would not have a vote in approving or rejecting whatever the decision is. We just accept what the arbitrator has put forward. So like I said, both sides present their argument, present their position, and the arbitrator would make a decision about what would result in the collective agreement, and that might even include that nothing goes into the collective agreement. So that is a fair process to move this dispute forward. We also said take the multi-year funding agreement that was signed with SSVA, amended in a few different places, ensuring that the funds were guaranteed over the term of the agreement, that there was no way to exit that agreement, and ensure accountability on school boards so that they are consulting with teachers who are the ones that are working with students day in and day out. They know the needs of their students and the needs of their school community, and that to ensure there's a reporting mechanism. So we all have open and transparent reporting about where or what the decisions were of where those funds went within the school division. We also said take the MOU that was offered to teachers and bring it to the bargaining table. Give the bargaining committee a mandate to talk about classroom complexity. There are plenty of quick solutions or easy solutions to this. We just need government to have that political will to make a long-term commitment. And I think the lengths that they are going to avoid having a long-term commitment is really telling about how committed they are to improving the experiences of students in our public education system.
Thank you.
Thank you. So not seeing any other questions, again, I want to thank you all for joining us here today, and again, offer my sincere disappointment that we are at this place. I wish that we were able to find a resolution to the dispute, and teachers are ready to find a solution that works for not just teachers, but works for government and works for school boards. And like I said, that is in the best interest of kids. We want to ensure that every child across this province has the same opportunities and the same ability to succeed in their education. We want to ensure that when they graduate from our schools, that they have the skills and knowledge necessary, whether it is to enter the workforce or enter into post-secondary education. We know our students are the most important resource that we have in this province. Our students are going to be the future of this province, and we need to invest in their education. So thank you for your understanding. We encourage you to, like I said, reach out to the Minister of Education, reach out to the Premier. There are ways that we can find a solution so that bargaining can resume and all sanction action can be canceled or suspended. So thank you again for joining us.